Welcome to the lecture on graduated payment mortgage and sinking funds. So, in the last lecture when we talked about the mortgage debt, and we also talked about how when you take any loan, then what will be the mortgage schedule, how we determine the monthly payment. We also had discussed about the balance due after certain installments being paid. So, in that case also again we will use the formula to find the present value of the loan after paying certain installments. We can also find the remainder of the maturity. So, that also can be found. So, suppose you have to find the remainder of the maturity. In that case what you do is you have to, in the same formula, you have to find n. So, that can be found by using this formula ln of 1 minus CV by CV into R, and that divided by A, and that will be further divided by ln of 1 plus R. So, this is something which you can get from the formula itself. So, there if you are given some data, suppose you are given the present value, you are given the annual payment or the monthly payment A, and the rate of interest is known. In those cases simply you can find the number of payments n by using this formula. Now, what we have so far seen that there are certain variables which affect these monthly payment, and these factors are, or these variables are, the interest rate, because the interest rate will be certainly affecting the monthly payment. Then your term of maturity, how much in how many installments you are going to pay the entire loan, and also what will be the down payment. So, that down payment is also important, because down payment will ultimately because your interest what you are going to pay from the start, that will be smaller if your down payment is larger, because if the down payment is more, then the principal amount on which the interest calculation will be there. So, that will be less. So, that is why they can be studied. You can have the different types of studies, and for example, if you look at the suppose we have seen that the monthly interest, monthly payment will vary with the interest rate, because interest rate when it is increasing, then for the same year of maturity your monthly payment will differ. Like when you have $1,000 payment is to be carried out, and if you take the interest rate, so if you take interest rate of 5%, in that case your for 15 years maturity time, your at 5% you will have to pay $7.91 dollar for every month payment. And if you go for 30 years, in that case you have to go for 5.37. So, that way your monthly payment will be varying, and if you take 10%, in that case this 7.91 will go to 10.75, and similarly this in 30 years it will be 8.77. So, this way your depending upon the interest rate, effective interest rate, your these monthly payments basically will be varying. This is the monthly payment. Now, we can further see. So, this is the effect of the interest rate on the monthly payment. Similarly, you can have different maturity rates, and then you can have the different interest rates. Maturity time may be different, and you have different interest rates, and in that what will be your monthly payment and what will be the total interest which you are going to pay for that. So, that will be also another subject of study which you can find. And if you see in that case, if your term is there, if suppose term of maturity is varying, suppose 30 and 25 and 20. Now, in that case, if you take the 6% interest, suppose, now in that case your monthly payment this installment will be 420 for a 70,000 loan. So, this is for 70,000 loan. Now, in this case your PYT is coming as 420 and your total interest is coming as 81,000. While if you take 25 years of time, then this will be 451 and this will be 65,000, and if you take the 15 years of maturity time, then it will be 591 and this will be 36,000. So, this is for not for 20 years, this is for 15 years and this will be 36,000. So, that way what you see is that your total interest which you are paying that will be varying. Now, if you increase the interest, then these amounts will vary. Suppose you are taking 8% interest, in that case the monthly payment and the total interest if you look at. So, in that case for 8% it will be 524 and this will be 1,15,000. So, that is what you see, that for 8% interest you are paying for 30 years, you are paying about 1,15,000 of loan. Similarly, for 25 years you are paying 540 and you are paying here 92,000, and for 15 years you are paying 669 and you are paying 50,000 as interest. So, what you see that if you change the maturity time, then with the change in interest you can see that your monthly payment is going to change. With decrease of maturity time, certainly your monthly payment amount will be increasing, but certainly the interest which you are paying will be decreasing. So, that is how we see that. And when you can see the effect of down payment also. So, effect of down payment is also there on the payment schedule or the mortgage schedule of the loan. And suppose you have taken a loan of for a loan of 1 lakh. So, what you see that if you take the down payment of, you can have the down payment of different amount, and if you take this at 7% interest, in that case if you take the, so down payment is 5,000, it means you are financing financed amount will be 95,000, and in that case your monthly payment will be so this is you are taking for 20 years. Now, for 20 years if you take down payment of 5,000, your monthly amount will be coming as 736.53. But if you give larger down payment, suppose you are giving 20,000 down payment, then in that case your financed amount is 80,000, because you are taking the loan on only 80,000 rupees, and in that case it comes down to 620.24. And if you further increase, then financed amount will be further less and the monthly installment amount will be further less. So, that way your these interest these factors have the effect on this installment schedule, how you are paying, how much interest we will be paying, and all these are having some interconnected effects on each other. Now, we will move to the the introduction to this graduated payment. Now, in that case one of the example is that many a times we try to see that we should pay this loan initially smaller amount and then that should increase over the time. So, that is known as the graduated payment mortgages. Now, in these cases what we do is that we anticipate that our income will grow with time. So, when we take a loan we feel that initially we should pay, so we fix that we will start paying from some amount and then every successive payment will be increased by certain factor, certain fraction or certain percentage. So, that way this type of payments are known as the graduated payment mortgages, and so in this payment the payment starts low, increases over a certain period of time and then stays fixed to the end of the loan's maturity. So, it can be that it is starting from some amount and then it will be increasing by certain percentage slowly, and then after some time it may be that may be fixed to that or that may further continuously increasing. So, like that. So, basically we have studied for such payment series, we have studied about them in a compounding interest that factors, and that was the geometric gradient series factor. So, basically that series factor will be used under those conditions, and when you know the P and when you know the yearly payment I mean the first installment, and then it will go for the increase. So, in those cases you can calculate using that. So, what will be the current value of the principal. So, for the current value of the amount, what will be A, or vice versa, you can use these factors to find that. So, basically coming to the concept of these graduated payments, this is helpful for borrowers who predict that within a certain period they will be able to afford more than they do at the time of taking out the loan. So, that is what your concept is, that you as the time progresses you will be able to pay more. You expect that your salary will increase or you will get some additional income, then you can increase. So, the lender will decide on a particular growth rate by which the payment increases in k years. So, basically there will be a growth rate G will be decided, and on that your payment will be increasing, and there will be formula for this current value of future payments which grow at a constant rate. So, that basically in that term this is a graduated payment formula, and we know that it is basically the present value P. If you recall those formula, P will be f1 by 1 plus g, and then it is multiplied by the factor P by A g prime n. So, g prime is nothing but 1 plus I by 1 plus g minus 1. So, that way we calculate these values, and in this case if you take the R as the interest rate and G as the growth rate. So, what we get is that you can get the current value. So, for graduated payment series, what we graduated payment we apply that formula, and what we get is you can get CV as A into 1 plus G, and then 1 minus 1 plus G by 1 plus R raised to the power n divided by R minus G. So, basically using this formula you can find the current value of the loan, and for any current value of the loan you can even find the amount, annuity or the monthly payment, depending upon that R will be changing, and this way you are going to have the calculation of CV, the present value of the loan. So, this is known as the graduated payment, and you can have an example. Suppose a person is there. So, you have a stream of cash flow, and in that your first payment is 2000, and then it will further grow. So, that grows at some percentage. So, that grows at 5% annually, and for 10 years. So, and interest rate is 8.5%. So, for such cases present value will be what? So, if you are told to calculate the values in some such problems, we know that your first payment is 2000, and then it is increasing further. So, that is increasing at 5%. So, G is 0.05. So, G will be 0.05 and R is 0.085. So, you can use the same formula current value. Current value will be A into 1 plus G as we have seen, and then you have 1 minus 1 plus G by 1 plus R raised to the power n and divided by R minus G. So, in this case you will use 200. So, that is 2000, and then you have to multiply that with 1 plus G. So, G is 0.05. So, 1 plus 0.05, and then 1 minus 1 plus 0.05 by 1 plus 0.085, and that raised to the power 10 you are doing for 10 years, and that divided by R minus G. So, R is 0.085 and that G is 0.05. So, you do the calculation on this and you will get 16,774. So, that way you can have the calculation of the present values using these formulas of the graduated payment in such cases. Now, you can that also can be basically put in a factor, and there may be different table. So, when you go for monthly payment, in those cases you may have the different table, and this can be directly written as some factor values, and that can directly be multiplied with A. So, that you can simply multiply with A and get the final CV values. So, these are the that can be used anyway and found the values. Now, there is another thing which is coming while giving these mortgage loans, and that is mortgage points. Now, many a times these mortgage loan points, they are the additional charges which are imposed by lenders and paid in advance by the borrowers. So, you have to pay the borrower that advance amount, and it is just a way to increase the lender's profitability. So, it will be done by this lender to increase his profit, and it will be increase the cost of borrowing for the borrower by pushing up the effective interest rate. So, what happens that your effective interest rate will certainly increase, because you are being paid less amount, and so the effective interest rate will be larger. And the points are normally set as 1% of the amount borrowed. So, that is the standard practice, but it can be different. So, you can just see that if you have an example, suppose you have a loan. So, you have a loan of rupees 85,000, and in that you have it is at 9% and 2 points. So, 2 points means 2% will be taken by the lender itself in advance. So, you will get only 98% of this loan amount which you intend to get. Now, if the maturity time is given as 20 years, so in that case you are required to know that what will be the A, that is your monthly payment value. So, what happens that your R becomes 0.09 by 09 by 12, and since there are 2 points. Now, n is 20 years. So, 20 into 12. So, it will be 240, and then you can get you can calculate the value of monthly payment. So, we know that the monthly payment will be CV. So, CV is your 85,000 and it will be r by 1 minus r raised to the power 1 plus r raised to the power minus n. So, if you give all these values, it will be coming as 764.77. So, this is your monthly payment. Now, borrower has to pay this much amount for the whole of the life. However, he will be getting only 85,000 minus 2 points. So, basically he will be getting 85,000 into 1 minus 0.02. So, he will be getting basically 83,300 rupees only. So, basically he is getting 83,300 and he is paying at 764.77. So, on that if you calculate the effective interest rate, what is coming out, because it is not 85,000, it is basically 83,000. So, in that case if he calculates, now in that case if you look at the R, the effective R value will be coming as 9.28% for this 83,300, because for paying this 83,300 he is paying 764.77 rupees every month, and that leads to the effective interest rate of 9.28%. So, what you see that the effective interest rate becomes more in such cases when your points are being charged by the lender, and that is the case at many situations. So, you must be knowing that you are required to calculate in those cases the effective interest rates. Then many a times there is a concept of the prepayment penalty on the mortgage loans. So, many a times when you are trying to do the finalize this loan, or you are going to do the prepayment, in that case they apply a penalty. So, basically the lenders basically get their earnings from the interest paid, and for protecting themselves they put some clauses like prepayment penalty, and it is nothing but a charge they impose on the borrower if the loan is paid off before its normal maturity. So, when you go to bank to say to prepayment, all that do the prepayment, in those cases they will give you a penalty, and these penalties are set differently, and that will be normally according to the types of loans, and they will be imposing a charge of equal to 3 to 6 months of basically the interest on unpaid balance of the loan. So, they will be charging that extra, so that they feel that the interest they were supposed to get for the rest of the maturity period, which is now going to be finished. So, they can compensate something out of that. So, there may be questions based on that, and you can even solve them. And for example, suppose you are talking about a case where a loan was for 2,50,000, and it was agreed that it will be at 5% for 25 years. Now, after only 3 years, it is planned to be paid off. So, what happens that the mortgage penalty what has been set. So, penalty has been set as the 5 month of interest, that is set by the lender on remaining balance. So, in those cases what you need to do is, now you have to find the prepayment penalty. So, in those cases you can use the formula for finding that prepayment penalty, and if you look at the thing, what you see is that for this 2,50,000 loan, in that you have already paid for 3 3 years you have already paid. So, what you do is that for initial for initial 25 years you will find A, and A will be for 25 years. If you calculate, it will be CV into again that formula. So, CV into R by 1 minus 1 plus R raised to the power minus n. So, so that way n will be 25 years, it will be 300 and R will be 0.05 by 12. So, that will lead to 1467.31. Now, this has been paid for 3 years. So, now after 3 years you have 22 years remaining. So, further that for 22 years it will be 22 into 12. So, 264 payments. Now, for 264 payments, what will be the current value after 3 years? So, for that current value will be calculated with A into 1 minus 1 plus R raised to the power minus n by R. So, here R will be same as 0.05 by 12 and n will be 264. So, this will be coming as 233,818.75. So, this is the amount which is remaining at after 3 years, and you are going to get penalty. So, your penalty will be 5% of 5 month of interest on this remaining. So, 5% by 12, and then you have to get this is your 1 month interest and into 5, and then you have 233,818.75. So, that way you have to calculate this value, and that will come out as 4871.22. So, this will be the prepayment penalty which is to be given to you. So, that is how you settle off this loan. Then ultimately we are also talking about the sinking funds. Now, sinking funds are basically set up specifically to accumulate money in a systematic way. Now, what happens that we have studied about the sinking fund method also, this sinking fund factors also. There you have the calculation of A for a particular calculation of particular value of F. So, that is your sinking fund factor. Now, in these cases the same thing is there, that you have the setup of the fund to accumulate money in the systematic way to satisfy future financial needs. So, you basically try to serve deposit at periodic time to satisfy your future financial need, like you have to retire certain debt, or a bond issues redeeming, or purchase new equipment, or replace worn out machines. So, this way these sinking funds calculations are done, and knowing the amount of the money which is needed in the future and the time is needed for an interest when you know, you can have the finding to find the value of annuity. So, that sinking fund or that fund which you require at some future time may be calculated. So, you have you have in many cases like debt retirement, or you have many cases these funds are being used. So, you use these sinking of fund formulas for such cases. So, and in the case of debt retirement, basically it has two separate functions: to continue to pay the interest on the debt as it comes due. So, many a times what happens that you think that you will be paying the interest on the debt as the time goes, and in between you are also paying you will be having that much fund at the end, so that you can calculate, you can pay the principal amount also. So, similar to the amortization method, you have sinking fund method also, which will structure the principal payoff accumulation, that is known as sinking fund schedule, and it will be showing the sequence of deposits made, the interest they earn, and how the fund gets accumulated towards building up the targeted amount at the end of the term. So, that is how you have simply the use of another factor, that is in terms of A and FV, which is used in the case of sinking term, and it can be basically related with the factors which we have studied in the case of compounding frequency and interest factors. In those cases we can have the calculation, and we can understand with the help of maybe some examples, like suppose you have taken a loan of suppose 6500, and it has to be paid in 3 years at 14.55%. So, to be paid in 3 years at 14.5% interest, and payment is basically quarterly payable. So, now in this case somebody has to open the account, a sinking fund, to pay off the principal of its debt at the end of 3 years. So, and this account is paying some interest, suppose 13% of the interest, which is compounded quarterly. So, in that case you have to calculate the interest which is being accumulated. Now, so to set up a sinking fund, and that on that fund to pay off the principal of debt at end of 3 years. So, if you look at thing that in 3 years something has to come to 6500. So, how much quarterly he should be depositing, and for that you will be using this interest rate. And if you look at this this account pays 13% interest compounded quarterly. So, you may be interested to find the total interest on the loan, and that will be basically 14.5% into 3 years into 6500. So, that can be calculated. Now, based on that your quarterly payments for the interest can be calculated, but if you want to find the payment quarterly, so that this 6500 should be paid, in that case your quarterly payment will be something like FV into R divided by 1 plus R raised to the power n minus 1. So, in this case R will be your it is 13% and then compounded quarterly. So, it will be 13 by 4%. So, it will be 0.0325. So, you have to use 0.0325 here, and your n will be for 3 years it will be 12 terms. So, if you use these n 12 terms, you will get 451.54 rupees. So, basically if you pay this, you are going to get rid of this 6500 principal amount in 3 years. So, that is how you are going to use this sinking fund formula for the calculation of these interest or the finding the annuity, so that you can clear the loan. Thank you very much.